रिचा, तुम्हारी आवाज नहीं आ रही है।
Okay, so I should begin again. It's
Yes, we were
okay.
thinking what is happening.
Okay. Okay. So thank you everyone. We are going to share the feedback for day 5. So before I hand over to the moderators and the speakers of the day. So day 6, the day 5 of the workshop, we have the feedback here. So thank you once again for rating us with scores 8 to 10 in most of the questions of the feedback. In terms of content, 54.5% of the participants rated 10. For the delivery of the sessions, 63.6% of the participants rated 10, and same for the relevance of the session, 63.6. The aha moment of the sessions, as quoted by the participants, were the presentation style, everything. Okay, both the sessions, Dr. Richa, Dr. Divya ma'ams, thank you very much. The approach suggested by Divya ma'am on how to write the review was informative, the storytelling, the way of presentation, and the checklist for a reviewer. So thank you participants for these aha moments. Suggestions, most of the participants have not recommended, and that's also a success point of the workshop. But still, with your suggestions, we are improving every day. So patience has been suggested by one of them. That was the key take-home message from that day. Awesome workshop. And most of them felt that the sessions were good and no improvements were needed. Thank you so much. With this, we also have the poll of the day. So I'll be sharing the poll answers. So thanks to Dr. Ankita for preparing the poll in a nice way. So for the first question we had, do you think your reviews done till date were not the way they should be? So 33% of the participants said yes, 19% said no, and 47.6 were not sure of that. Had you been replying to all your reviews in time without additional reminder? 64.3 said yes, 23.8 no, and 11.9 maybe. They were not sure. And when your manuscript is rejected by a journal, what do you do? So 97.7% said that they introspect, modify, and according to the comments, and then send somewhere. Or straight away was a way by 2.3% of the participants said that they straight away send it to some other journal. And no one blames the editor or the reviewer bias. After how many attempts of submission to high impact international peer reviewed journals do you downgrade to lower impact national peer reviewed journals? Okay, so 20.9% say to two after 2 attempts. 27.9% say they do not downgrade to national journals. 11.6% say they believe trying in international journals is a futile exercise. And 39.5% say they take 3 to 5 attempts into it. So. Okay, so we are getting a feedback of the different participants. So that was a poll for day 5. We'll be shortly giving you poll for today's also. And so handing over to moderator for day 6, Dr. Sachin Rai, sir.
Thank you, Richa. Thanks a lot. On behalf of the organizing team, I welcome you to the day 6 of this reviewers workshop. We have been doing great actually for the last 1 week. Now, today's talks are from a single speaker. We all know Professor Divya Mehrotra. She doesn't need an introduction. To put it in a single line, she is the brain and the brawn behind this reviewers workshop. So the first thing she'll be speaking upon is rewarding and recognizing good peer reviewers, whoever are doing the good job. Next half of her presentation would be how do reviewers become editors. Sounds ambitious to me or most of us, but let's learn the right way. How can a reviewer become the associate editor or raise in the hierarchy of this editorial board? So without wasting any time, I welcome ma'am. I hope you are ready with the presentation, ma'am.
Yeah, I'll share the screen, but let me first welcome Mr. Marcus. And I see Cyrus Kerawala here. Hello, Cyrus, how are you? Thank you for joining in. Can we have your video on? Would you like to put your video on?
He's probably driving somewhere.
Oh, Okay. He was very busy. I wanted him to be here, and he said he had some meetings, but he will surely make some time for us. So he's here. That's very good about him that he could make it.
Excellent.
Yeah, let me.
I'll speak for him.
Okay. So, yes. So we all know that peer review is the only method of scientific validation for our articles. And peer review process is good because of our reviewers. And these reviewers are putting their lots of time and energy to improve our authors. Now, the authors are being benefited, the readers are being benefited, but what about these reviewers who are putting all that energy into improving our system? So there has to be some way how we can reward these reviewers. And for this, I'll be taking you to my slides now. So first of all, a big round of applause for all the reviewers who are attending or who are participating in this workshop. We in our journal have about 300 reviewers, and most of you have enrolled in this reviewers workshop today. Now, talking about what all is there for the reviewers, from Elsevier, there is the Reviewers Hub. Last time we were talking, on the first day we were talking that there are Publons and there are various indexing agencies or platforms where the reviewers can put in their reviews items, and then they can have a list of those items. So initially, Elsevier was not having such platform other than the recognition platform. So, but now, apart from the reviewer recognition platform from Elsevier, they have recently launched, or actually they will be launching this sometime this week. So this is the Reviewers Hub, where they will if you enroll yourself in this Reviewers Hub, you can get to see your pending invitations in any of the Elsevier platform, and you can have a look at the reviews in progress. So what all work is scheduled with you, or you have completed your task, would be visible there. And review history and acknowledgement. So if you say that I didn't check my mail, or I forgot to review because of all other mails, so this is a single platform where you can log in and you can have a good look. Apart from that, Elsevier also has some training sessions for the peer review program, and you can go and listen to these webinars as well. So at the end of the year, we have been trying to send certificates to all our reviewers based on their yearly activities. So that is what we have been doing for past some years, and I must share with you that the Journal of Oral Biology and Craniofacial Research has is in its 10th year this year. We started with the journal in 2011, and this is 2020. So in its 10th year, we could organize this event. Now, coming to the Elsevier's platform, there are two platforms, which were available earlier. So it is a Reviewers Recognition platform, and the other one is the Mendeley profile. So it is always good to have you signed in these two platforms. And now with the new Reviewers Hub, you can enroll into that as well. So this Reviewers Recognition platform allows you to track your reviewer status, access your annual review history. You can, based on your performance for the year, you can have discount coupons, and you can, whenever you are making your purchase, so you get some financial benefit as well. You get your certificates, your recognition certificates from Elsevier Recognition platform, and very like the kids, when they complete their game and they get a certificate, it's good for us also. When we complete our review and we get a certificate, it is generated just by the system. So good to have that. Now, through this, if anyone is interested in enrolling as a volunteer to review other journals, they can do so. And not only Elsevier journals, but even non-Elsevier journals, they can enroll for peer review. And they should be enrolling via their ORCID ID, so that it is all compiled better way. So when I go to my Elsevier research reviewer profile, there are these benefits. But if how can I reflect it on all my reviewing activities? So I can create a digital signature and I can put it on my email. So whenever anybody wants to have a look, they can know my review history as well. So that way you're not showcasing, but even then people come to know. So I logged in just to give you a picture how it appears like on the Elsevier recognition platform. I enrolled with my email ID and I found that I had a certificate of excellence received for my reviewing in December 18 and something for July 11 as well from different journals. So total reviews in the Elsevier platform I could find was 6 only, because I have not been registering all my reviews in that, but some automatically go into it. And based on my performance, the annual update is done and it is seen whether it is if it's only one review I have done, then I am given a certificate of recognized. If I've done more reviews for the journal, then if I'm the top 10 percentile of the reviewers, I get an outstanding status certificate. And if I am handpicked by the editor, then I get a certificate of excellence. So this is how the certificates are generated through the system. So to give you a picture, I have 2 email addresses. And when I logged in with my editor, govcr@gmail.com, I found there were 7 from the British Journal and 1 from my own journal. So this is how I could download my certificate. And for your how the certificate looks like, this is the certificate which I received from the Journal of Oral Biology. This was just a recognition certificate for a single review. But from the British Journal, I received an outstanding certification because of my contribution to that journal. Similarly, the other email address, so it's good to use only single email address so that you have everything on that account. So if you are having different email addresses, it is distributed into 2. So with this email address, I found there were few in the Journal of Oral Biology and few in the other Journal of Medical Hypothesis. So this is the certificate I received from Medical Hypothesis. So not only the certificates, there are more ways of recognition for the reviewer. And most of the index which are used to score a reviewer are usually based on quantity, not on quality. Like our index, it's based on the editor's assessment. So every time you send a review, editor assesses you, the journal impact factor, and the article length for time spent. So if a longer article and you have spent long time, there would be different score. If it's a very short article, you will get a small other score. So there is a complex formula which derives this R index, and it has been tested in more than 2 million manuscripts. And those with high R index are actually the unheralded pillars of community, because they have been doing so much of academic help to the scientific community, and for this reason the academic recognition has been recognized a lot. Now the other measure which has been used for the reviewer score is qualitative. So not only the quantity, how much time or how much articles you actually reviewed, it is based on your productivity, your reliability, your compliance, and your dedication. Again, with a complex formula, it can be calculated. And the third score I found was the F3 index. Now this is somewhere in 2019 which has been published. So actually, if you see, there were no talking about rewarding the reviewers earlier. And it is only in the last few years that it has been, the people have started pondering over this issue, how to best recognize or reward our reviewers who are putting so much of time and energy. So if I say F3 index has been calculated upon the length of the report. So how long your report is. This is the first way who is actually talking on the length of the report, how elaborately you have reviewed the article, in what time you delivered, and the editorial decision. So if your review comments suggest a recommendation of reject and the editorial decision is also reject, that means you are aligned to the editorial decision. But if you're saying minor revision or you're saying major revision and the editorial decision is accept, that means you're not aligned. So if your views and the editor's views are aligned, this is how you get. So I found this is the best way of scoring a reviewer. As you see, it is a ladder. The more you perform, the better you perform, you keep on rising. And my achieving, if I take my own example, because of my outstanding contribution to the British Journal, they have now put me in the editorial advisory board. So I am somewhere here in 2020, and I also receive a letter of very good words that you feel better that you are actually being recognized somewhere for your inputs. Now coming to Mendeley, people were asking if you can show it with the example. So I put it my own example. Again, Mendeley picks up all the data by itself. So you don't have to add on your data into it. And I found that it takes editor assignments, it takes review assignments, and it gives you a dashboard. So it gives you a complete profile, and it gives you how much citations and the H index is yours according to Scopus, because this is Science Direct. So if you just talk about Elsevier's journals, then it is the citations which are from the Elsevier publication. And H index, I hope you all know what is H index. H index is the H number of articles having H citations. So if I have a publication of suppose 50 and my 20 articles have about 20 citations each, so then my H index would be 20. But this shows that out of my whatever articles there are, only 12 articles have got 12 citation each. So that's why the H index is 12. You can also see how your citations are improving, or which year they were more and which year they declined. How are the readers taking your articles? So everything you can see, how many views. Not only that, it also gives you a picture of how many times you have been mentioned in the media. So whenever you are in the news, the Mendeley picks it up and you are recorded there. Coming to Publons. So Publons is recording everything which is available on Web of Science. So it will have much less data than it is available on the Scopus or so if I talk about Publons, I see my dashboard, and if I click, this is my matrix. So I find 36 articles published in Web of Science, and here if you see, my H index is lower, and the citations per year you get to see average citation per article and the total citations. But you also get to see how many journals have published your articles. So if you can get a look of your publications, the articles published in different journals, that also you can get a picture. So now this is publication matrix. But if you talk about your review matrix, so I used to put my data of reviewing in 2014, 15 and 16. Then I think I had time, but after that I forgot about entering my data. So I don't see any of the data entered here. It's blank, but initial years it was there. And it shows my number of verified reviews is 10. So I tried to enter them. It is a very difficult task to enter your reviews once you have completed. So I had to do every thank you mail from my email address, from my email which I had received. I picked up every thank you mail which had come to me as thank you reviewer for reviewing this article. From there I got by article number, and then I had to enter it in the Publons, and then it will be verified, and then it will be entered. So it's a huge task to enter it late. And this is how the publication matrix is shown in the Web of Science year by year. So some journals also take feedback. So once a reviewer has done the reviewing, then the person, the handling editor, is asked to give a feedback on the performance of the reviewer. So most of the journals are not now doing this. And if you see other platforms, so pilot study has been done by Elsevier, and they are looking at various options how to give recognition to their reviewers, so that it is actually going to improve the quality of review. So they should be rewarded. And New Services informs that journal reviewers are kept informed about the status of the manuscript. So this was not there earlier, but now every time the article is accepted or rejected, a mail is sent to the reviewer so that they are aware of what is the final status of the article. This is how reviewer helps the author. So the reviewers are helping the authors to improve. The handling editors are helping the reviewers to improve, and finally they take up the task and one day they are going to become editor. And this is how with this year we had from our review data bank, we had some additional section editors. Can whoever is speaking, can we have you muted, please?
I request all the participants to kindly mute yourself. Ma'am, kindly mute yourself.
Okay, so if there are any questions, we are happy to take them.
Ma'am, in the chat box, we don't have questions right now. We can proceed to the next talk so that we can clump them together later on.
But we can have Mr. Marcus to suggest some ways
Sure,
on how to reward the reviewers. Mr. Marcus, or if Cyrus is here, we can also ask him.
Sorry, what did you say?
What is your suggestion for the rewarding the reviewers for doing their job very well?
£1,000 each. and a very nice meal. It's somewhere in Lucknow.
Yes.
Seriously, I don't think rewards come into it. And I think if rewards did come into it, it would change the whole way that reviewing is done, and that's not on. So yes, it's nice to get a certificate every now and then to say what a good boy or girl you've been. And the only thing I find that I don't get any feedback on is individual. I mean, you said there was one of the metrics was whether you matched up your decision matched up with the editor's final decision.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite important, but I never get any feedback on that. One journal that I do a lot of reviewing for, the editor told me the other day, he said, I'm a star reviewer because I do so many reviews. But that's merely a reflection, perhaps, of I've got a little bit more time on my hands than somebody who's working full time in the health service, especially now. So it's very nice. And I think that's as far as it goes. I think you just have to try and do the job as well as you can, and as fairly as you can, and as understanding to people's different working cultures and countries, and just do your best and be guided by editors like you. Does that answer it?
Yeah, I think so. Cyrus, are you here? Cyrus, can we have you?
Cyrus is having trouble getting onto the website. We've just been communicating.
You can see him, but the video.
Put the answer in the chat box. He's saying there's some problem with the audio.
Okay.
He's written.
Okay.
He is. I think some reward of time useful for annual appraisals, but for most a certificate is enough, is what Cyrus Karawala said. Can you see that?
If you are saying yes, I'm trying to share my screen. So
I know.
yeah.
Well, I'll read. There
Yeah,
was a
please read
comment
that.
from
Yeah.
Cyrus. I think some reward of time useful for annual appraisals, but for most a certificate is enough. So I've got to the point where I don't need an appraisal because I'm no longer working full time in the health service. I just work in places like King George Medical University. And Cyrus has just sent me a message saying he's trying to send you another message. Agree with Tony, he says, for most people, reviewing and being able to contribute to peer review is reward enough.
Yes. That
Okay.
itself, yes. And it's a learning experience also, because when you,
Yes.
yeah, it gives you knowledge. You read whenever you are reviewing any particular topic, then you also read the latest literature. Otherwise, you would not have found time to read it. So this way it becomes to go and look for the material which is available online, or so you go through the stuff and it's good. It is gaining you more knowledge.
Ma'am, there's a question from my side.
Yes.
You've been editor for so long. Is it economically viable for a journal to financially reward the reviewers or have some sort of is there any journal in the world who does that? Do you have any idea about any journal doing that, rewarding financially or having a small stipend for reviewers for every review they do? Does it work like that anywhere?
I don't know. Mr. Marcus, do you know of any journal who is
No, I don't
financially?
know it.
So
Because
there
most
is
of
no,
the
I
time,
guess.
because most of the journals who are being published, so they don't have any publication fee. Only few have publication fee, but then it is used for the publication process, I suppose, and there are very limited funds to be distributed among the reviewers.
I agree to that.
But
I agree to that.
I think academic reputation is the best recognition.
And the learning experience which you learn from reading different studies.
Yes.
There's a question from not exactly for this particular talk of yours. The question goes like that. I have a question regarding how to join as a reviewer in Elsevier journal. Do we have to go individually and select the journal?
You can enroll. You can enroll. Anybody can enroll on the Elsevier reviewer platform, and if they get the option of choosing the journal, they may choose. Otherwise, through word of mouth, what I have been doing is the people I knew, I enrolled them initially. Then through them, more names came. So this is how through word of mouth I have been doing it. But yes, there is a Elsevier platform which helps you to enroll in as a reviewer.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope the person got the answer. So can we proceed with the second talk, ma'am? Because we don't have much questions in the chat box.
Yeah, can you see my screen?
We can, ma'am. Over to you. Of course, we can.
Okay.
Thank you,
So I'll be talking the role of editor. Now today is editor's perspective. How do editor looks at? So the role of the editor, how he or she believes is a good reviewer, and what is not recognized as a good reviewer, and how to find a good reviewer. What are the innovations in the publication system and the peer review system, and the metrics, how the editor can help in improving the metrics of the journal. So as we talked about the reviewers hub in Elsevier, there is also a editors hub, which can explain you or the role of the editor and how to submit and all those things. So you can, if you want to be editor, you can prepare yourself through these platforms. So if I just list the duties of the editors, the first of all is this: to select appropriate reviewer for each manuscript, and these reviewers should be diverse. So it should not be localized area. They should be spread from different zones globally. If there is any, sometimes there are queries from different people, how to do this, how to do that. So lots of mail come to us to resolve those queries. Sometimes we need to find new reviewers. So as in when the journal becomes old or the submissions increase, So those reviewers who are working for the journal, they are actually exhausted and you need to have new reviewers. So and then you have to identify who are the good reviewers. You have to go ahead with the publication decision. So whatever review has been suggested, the recommendation you have received from the reviewers, you have to take your final decision whether it should go into which category, acceptance, rejection, or revision. Then we talked about the ethical conduct of the reviewers. Similarly, there has to be an ethical conduct of the editors. So the fair play, confidentiality, declaring of competing interests, they have to be taken care of. Whatever record has been published, you don't want anything to be retracted from your, so you have to be very cautious. Whatever you accept and it is going in your publication record, so you have to be vigilant about that. There has to be quality control measures and the journal metrics, and now coming the alt metrics as well, how much you are active on the social media and how do you want to reward the reviewer. So this is the entire job list of an editor. And Elsevier also supports us in this because there are certain softwares aligned in the platform. So where you can do what is trending topics, what is the author. You can have a look at the entire who has submitted, what is the originality, what is the scope of this article. So you can go through these platforms and they are quite a help for the editors. So what makes a good reviewer in the eyes of an editor? Whoever responds promptly to the invitations, declares, so he has to have a professional approach, responds promptly to the invitations, declares his conflicts of interest, follows the instructions, and if in case they are not able to do that at that particular time, they would send a mail very soon and suggest alternatives. So they will suggest, I'm not available, this is also the person who is in this expert in this field and you may take the help from them. Response before the deadline and without reminders, because it takes, for me, it takes an hour daily to send these reminders. So they are automatic reminders as well from the system, but at times even those reminders are not sufficient and I have to check that do I need to send the reminder again, and it becomes a very hectic task. So the reviewer who provides an objective, thorough, and comprehensive report is a very good reviewer, because then I don't need to go through the entire article myself and I can understand all the comments from the reviewer and then take my decision. So he writes a detailed, well-justified, and constructive comment so that the author may improve. And Richa very well described yesterday how to write a terrible review, and I hope all of you have a good knowledge of what is good and how it should be done. So the recommendation is clear. Never make, now this is important, you're writing to the author that he has done very well, and to the editor that no, he has not done a good job. So if you are playing this game with the author and the editor, which is very contradictory, then it's not good. So you should not do that. Submits the report on time and then establishes the reputation. So everyone in the journal editorial board feels that this person is doing a very good job. So that makes him fall into the category of a good reviewer. So he has to be professional. He has to be giving us a detailed topic-wise comments on each of these, as we talked about yesterday. And he also wants to improve the quality of review. So he or she may seek mentorship from the editorial boards, collaborate with the biostatistician so that they understand very well the stats as well. And they have to devote time for that, and they are ready to do it. They also know, they should be knowing everything about the study design, analysis, and the presentation of results. They need to check the feedback. So if a person is checking on the feedback and ratings for the reviews based on timeliness and quality of review, so that has to be checked. So the person who wants to improve will always look back and see what was the comments and how could it help him improve further. And then there's also points for the peer review activities, as you all are doing right now. So this will give you credits and this can help you improve a lot. Other than that, there has to be a rapport between the editor and the reviewer. So that trust has to be generated, that relationship has to be developed. and either of them have to be cooperative to each other and support each other. Then comes the critics of the peer review process. So you have to know that there can be a reviewer bias and how to take care of that reviewer bias. And also we know that it's not possible for all the reviewers to know all the things every time. So there are areas where the reviewer is an expert but may not be aware of those things. So that may lead to the reviewer not understanding the article, and maybe that may cause a different type of review. Sometimes it may happen that the key errors escape the peer reviews and the editorial process, and they get accepted. So that has to be taken care of. Plagiarism, duplication, corruption, and reviewers' misconduct. So all these can happen anytime. So one has to be vigilant. And some people do not share their fair share of reviews, and sometimes reviewers are also disheartened because of not getting recognized. So all these things have to be taken care of. Now, coming to the ugly side of peer review, we talked about the good side. Richa talked about the bad review, but I'm now talking about the ugly side of peer review, where there may be fake reviewers, and this happens most of the time when we opt for the author suggested reviewers. So many a times it happens that the author has suggested two names. The names are there, but the email address for them is fake, generated by the author himself. So when we choose those reviewers, the mail doesn't go to that reviewer, but instead goes to the author himself, and then you get very good comments from the fake reviewer. So that has to be kept in mind. So how to handle these fake reviewers? What we see, if the email address is not from the institution. So if I believe that Mr. Marcus is the reviewer and it should come from something, it should be uk.co.uk, and it's not there, I would feel that there's something to be looked into, that this mail is correct or not. Any indications of conflict of interest? So if sometimes the same review, I know there is a reviewer suggested from his own department or his own institute, then I can feel that they are not going to give a correct review. Is reviewer a subject expert? So it should be checked, because you don't know all the people. So whenever author has suggested a reviewer, I need to check whether his publications match with something what the author has, the subject of the author. So is reviewer a regular co-author? That also we need to check. If both are friends and have been writing with each other as co-authors, and the author has suggested this name, then I can't rely on that reviewer. So that has to be handled very carefully. I don't try to use, I just don't use those suggested reviewers option to handle that issue. Then comes the citation manipulation. Either the editor asks the authors to cite more papers from the journal. It has happened with me also. I've seen reviewers asking me to cite papers from their journal, and reviewers asking authors to cite their papers regardless of the relevance. So whenever the review comes, the first review, I just get the first page where the reviewer's responses or the author's responses to the reviewer, and I just go through those particularly to check for this citation manipulation. So that is a time-taking job. And there is a Netherlands Code of Conduct for Research Integrity, and which recognizes this as a misconduct. And the prevalence of reviewer manipulation of citation is, though rare, it is about 0.8% when studied. So, but it is happening. Then the conflicts of interest. When one should not review the paper. If the person has been co-author in the past 3 years with the author, they should suggest that there is a conflict of interest and we cannot review this. If they are colleagues in the same department, if he or she has been the supervisor for the work of the author, then they should not review. Receiving professional or personal benefit from the reviewer, from this review, they should not be doing. Personal relationship or a direct indirect financial interest. So whenever you are connected to the author, you should simply write that there would be conflicts of interest, and the reviewer should deny that he would not be able to do the job this time. comes the bias. What is bias actually? It is a breach of responsibility, but it is deleterious. So there may be gender bias, there may be regional bias, and there may be reviewer bias. So everything we have to think of if there are any biases in the reviewing system, and we have to deal with that. We can have number of reviewers can be increased, and that's why we are also using double blind. So most of the journals are using blinded review, so that the reviewers don't know about the authors and the authors don't know about the reviewers as well. So sealing papers, this is also a misconduct. Many times it happens that the reviewers reject the article and then later on publish it as their own article. So the editor has to be vigilant on that. The author has to be vigilant on that. If he finds such a scenario happening, it should come to, he should bring it to the editor's notice as well, so that we come to know. Sometimes it happens that the reviewers request the authors to add them as a author to this publication, either before the publication or maybe after the publication. So this is also a misconduct and should not be encouraged. Now coming to the editor again. So once we have decided that this is the good reviewers, these are the lot of bad reviewers or the people who we needs to be vigilant about. So then the process is how to distribute the articles such that they are doing their job properly. So one reviewer is not sufficient. There have to be more than 2 reviewers, and it is better to have one senior person and one junior person. So there has to be a diversity. One has to be from local region and one has to be a distant person. So that way you can meet the demands of the global scenario as well as senior and junior. So experience wise also you have a diversity, and region wise also you have a diversity. So this is the routine thing. We get to have some queries on the submission system, maybe before the submission, maybe because of conflict of interest, maybe because post submission. Sometimes we get a status update queries, and sometimes we do get withdrawal queries as well, that we want to withdraw. Maybe it happens that the authors submit an article 2-3 places, and where whoever does the job first, and then they ask the other journals to for the withdrawal. So that is what we have been seeing. Now the most difficult task is that we need reviewers. The authors, as we see, authors also want to become reviewers, and the editors are also looking for reviewers. So there is a mismatch. Though both the places there is requirement, but the connectivity is not there. So that's why we need to have these platforms. Because the number of papers is increasing every year, we have to look for novel ways of attracting new reviewers. And as an editor, whenever I see a good person who is dedicated, I seize that opportunity and ask him to become a reviewer. And it is good to have fresh voices for the journal. So it's good to have new authors and people joined in as reviewers. But whosoever is being enrolled as a reviewer has to have a publication record. I can't take anyone who has not published as a reviewer. So there has to be some experience, good experience in publishing, who knows where and what to be checked, how to review, and then if that person wants to dedicate some time for the journal, he or she is most welcome. So either we talk we ask our colleagues to suggest few names. At the conference also we do ask that we need more reviewers to be recruited or enrolled in the platform. And we ask the editorial board to suggest. We also go through the reviewer database of the Elsevier, and we ask to volunteers. There's also a system on Elsevier which is Jane, which is Journal Author Name Estimator online tool. Sometimes we do get help from this as well to find our reviewers for the manuscripts. So, but what I do is mostly I do the classification match, and from the entire Elsevier enrolled reviewers, I get to know from the classification match who is doing this That way I'm avoiding the fake reviewers as well, and I'm getting those who have published. I can see their record, and I can ask them to review the manuscripts from the journal. Lots of innovation is happening because this demand for more reviewers, and one of them is volunteers, which is again where people are asked to enroll. And this pilot work of Elsevier has received positive feedback from all sides. The authors, the reviewers also feel that they are happy, and they have a good review, and the authors also feel that the review was excellent and critical but constructive. So both authors as well as reviewers have given positive feedback for this open peer volunteers platform. It has been a success because people who are really interested to review are coming up as volunteers, and that way the chances of declines are reduced, the quality of review is enhanced, and within lesser time they do that. There is a greater transparency because now the editor gives feedback to volunteers as well, so they know how the editor is mentoring them to improve upon their review system. 60% reply rate to initial notification. So this is all success criteria because they have early notification from the reviewers, and within less time they are doing the review. The editor is satisfied and the reviewer is satisfied. So this has been really a successful work of the Elsevier. The next task is publication decisions. So whenever the review comments are there, the editor has to decide what to do about this, whether there are two reviewers who are saying different recommendation, how to go about it. So sometimes the articles even take 4 to 5 cycles of revision, and even after that it is the editor's decision whether to accept it or to again send it for revision. If the article is better, actually it will be cited more, it would be more readable, so that will enhance the journal quality as well. So the whole effort is put into that. So if it happens that the two reviewers, if one of them is saying major revision and the other one is saying rejection, that is the probability is more towards the rejection. So if it is minor revision and rejection, so wherever it is rejection, the probability of the decision of the editor is to reject it. But whenever it is towards minor correction, some revision, or it is accept or minor, or it is accept, so both the reviewers are talking same term, then the probability is towards the acceptance of the article. Sometimes it's a tie, so third reviewer is to be asked to come and comment on the decision. We have talked about it. I'll not talk more about these because we have already talked about the fair play and the COPE guidelines. So this is how COPE guideline gives for particular area how you can deal with a particular scenario. So everything has been demonstrated with a flow chart. And this is another tool by Elsevier which helps the editors. So there are two tools, COPE guidelines and the PERC kit. So, although the ethics we do talk about in the reviewers, the editors also have been seen to have misconduct. So that has to be avoided. Even in rest of the journals, you see some mismanagement, some misconduct from the editors. Now, the next innovation we need to talk about is the open review, and we saw an example of this open review. Who is talking? Can we have them muted, please?
So Dr. Swati Gupta is there, ma'am.
Swati, can we have you muted, please? Swati, can we have you muted, please?
Dripshita Potlia.
Dripshita? Yes, thank you. So the other thing is open review. We saw this example, we distributed this assignment, and we also shared the comments made because of by 3 reviewers on the open review platform, and we shared those as well with you yesterday. And if you see with the open review. Yeah. Thank you, Karso, for asking Swati to mute. It was very disturbing here to hear those noises. So many times there was the reason for declining was 68% times it was I don't have time, which is okay, understandable. But sometimes there is the manuscript doesn't match my area of expertise. Sometimes it is because of personal reasons, and about 10% of times it was because of conflict of interest. So, but 91% times the decision was not influenced whether it is open review or a normal review. So it is good to have an open review. When there is a tie or where you want more reviewers to just comment on that. And it has been seen that many times the reviewers want to disclose their identity and sometimes they don't want to. So it, as per their consent, the identity of the reviewers has to be disclosed or not. If they disclose it, they get the credit because it will be published and it will give them a DOI. But if they don't want to disclose their name, then their DOI will not have their name and they will not get the credit. It has to be reviewer's choice to be disclosing or not disclosing their name. And this is how the article is here. This is the article which was published, and then you see the comments. So this is an example of open peer review. So 3 reviewers have given their reviews, and you can just go and read them. Different journals have different ways of reviewing. Now, talking about the impact on editors and authors, 70% of these editors found that these reports, because they are going to be displayed or they have to be published, 70% of these editors found that these reports were much better, more in depth and constructive. And 33% of the editors said the overall quality of the review reports were improved because of the open peer review system. So that is in a way good. The other type of peer review which may be required when you see there are conflicting reports, one is saying reject, one is saying major revision, other is saying minor revision, other is saying accept. So what to be done? Sachin, can you mute this person who is talking?
Dr. Swati Gupta, and have messaged her.
You can mute them. Just click on the. I'll have to minimize my presentation and I'll have to go.
We are unable to do it, and we have told her on chat many times personally as well.
I can't. Yeah. Okay.
Still on. If anyone has a number, can call her.
I'll have to call her. Sorry for this.
I think both the Furness and the Swati, they are on phone.
This collaborative peer review is where you get all the reviewers on a single platform and you ask them, you present them the article, you present them the reviewer comments, and then there is an open panel discussion. She's on phone only, so she's not picking up the phone. You have to write to her on the chat box.
Ma'am, she's talking to Hemant. You can call Hemant.
Hemant's phone will also be busy now.
Okay.
Phone.
Yes,
You will have to put it in the chat box only.
I'm trying calling both of them, but they are not responding, ma'am.
Hemant.
Okay, ma'am.
Hemant. Please शोर बंद करो.
Okay, शोर बंद करें.
Phone बंद करो, please. So back, collaborative peer review. So we talked whenever there are conflicting reports, you need to have all the people collaborating together on a single platform, online platform, and you present everything, and then all the reviewers together, they summarize and review, and then editor summarizes and sends the comments. The other type of peer review is the interactive peer review, where again the editor has to present and then the reviewers and even the authors are called here. So not only the reviewers, but the authors are also invited, and there is cross questioning, and then finally the decision is made by the editor, and this is happening in the Frontiers journals. The other form of review which has been occurring as an innovation in different journals is that the results are not presented. It's only till the methodology, the research question, hypothesis, and the methodology is sent for review. And if it is accepted, then the author submits full paper. So there are submissions in 2 stages. In the first stage, half of it till the methodology section, and then in the second stage, there is the final complete submission. And this is happening in Journal of Vocational Behavior. So different innovations are happening to have a good review system. Now coming to the quality assurance, how to check the quality of the peer review system. So if you see the parameters which are controlling, it is the scientometrics, it is the altmetrics, it is the bibliometrics, and the citations, etc. So some article has recently been published, like a strategy, a tool for formulation of peer review strategies. And if you see, these are all things. So if you see the H index, the impact factor, the citation analysis, this all decides, and then this all comes to be a part of infometrics. So the scientometrics, the infometrics, and the research evaluation together form a tool to evaluate the quality of the peer review process. And these people have formed a software to do that. So instead of doing it manually, it is through a tool. So what can be done other than that tool if we don't have that? We can ask our peers to voluntarily review some of the articles and the peer-reviewed articles to check for the comments we have received, to check for the, according to them, what has been the scale of the review quality. So it could be either fair, neutral, or erroneous, or it could be divided into 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That way we can grade them review comments, and we can take help of the volunteer peers to score the quality of the review. Also, the authors can rate the reviewer comments, how they feel with respect to the correctness, to the objectivity, and the fairness. Even the editorial board from the senior members can be asked to evaluate a random subset of review statements. So all the stakeholders, the reviewers, the authors, the senior people, or we can also take the web-based repository, and external person can review. So that way, no one is biased. So third party can review. So that way you can control the quality and do the quality scoring. So quality assurance reviews, how they differ from peer reviews. This was a good article. I went through it. I thought it should be, it has given 6 steps of quality control. And these are: set your quality criteria and standards, decide what quality standards to focus on, where should you be, according to you should be the bar, and how to have everything above the bar. Create processes to deliver quality, review and check your results, get feedback, and try to make improvements. And as in all quality measures, these are the 6 parameters which have to be taken care of while scoring your quality. Then the other part of the task of editor is to increase journal's visibility. So as we talked, it could be the signature in your email address, or you at the conferences you have sessions. We can have meet the editor sessions, or you promote it on the social media and tweeting, and so all those social media things can be and used to enhance the visibility of the journal. How the journal is performing, how to see what are the impact measures, what are the journal insights, the scoring and the impact factor of the journal. Then I went through the journal insights of Elsevier, and I looked at the status of JOBCR, where it is standing. So of all the dentistry journals, if I see Journal of Oral Biology and Craniofacial Research, it's just 0.01 score below the American Journal of Oral Maxillofacial Surgery. So I think it's doing quite good in the terms of its site score. This is the site score. Now the difference between the site score and the impact factor is that the impact factor is based upon the citation in the last 2 years, where the Elsevier has the CITE score. And this CITE score has citation measured in the last 3 years. So instead of 2 years, it's 3 years citation, which is used to get this score. Then the impact, how the journal is making an impact worldwide. So if you see the CITE score, when we had it in 2016, it was only 0.56. In 17, it became 1.21. And in 2018, it became 1.51. So it is on the rise and it's doing well. If you see the number, ranking number, it was 64th initially, then 43, and now it is 37. So this year's we have not received. We would be receiving. I hope it would improve further. And speed. How much time does it take to publish in this journal? So if you see here, this is submission. The gray one is the submission to the final decision, where the green one is submission to first decision. So it is about in 8 weeks time. You see that in 2019, from submission to final final decision, and this is submission first decision, and this is his final decision. So although the time has increased because the number of articles also has increased, but it was 5 weeks initially, and now it is 8 weeks. So I don't think it's that bad, because the first decision is in 8 weeks. The second decision or the final decision is about in 12-13 weeks. That's how the speed of the publication is in this journal. If you see the publication times after acceptance, so initially it was much more, but now in a day or two after acceptance, it is published, it is online. So that speed has picked up. The reach, if you see how far the journal has authors from, so around the globe you can see everywhere, although it's more in India, but Europe, UK, US, South America, Australia as well. So there are authors from different areas, and from India, if you see 213 authors are there, but from US there are 5, UK 4. So it is covering in the entire globe in its reach. There's another impact score, which is field weighted citation impact, just to sensitize you that there are different types of impact scores being used. And how we do reviewers performance report. So I just took it from my journal, the performance report of the reviewers. If you see, I've hidden the names, so you won't be able to see those. But if you see total invitations, you can see outstanding invitations, you can see how many they agreed, I can see, and I can see how many terminated before agreeing, how many days they took to respond, how many days to complete, how many submitted in time, who submitted late, and how many average days late they submitted, and after agreeing, were they able to send their comments or they were uninvited, everything. And I analyzed if the mean time was 9.9 days to submission to review system. So this is in about 10 days submission to review. If 10 days is that period, 88 people have been doing it before time and 208 people have been doing it later than 10 days. If I see the submission to editorial decision time, so the final decision received by the author, then if it is 12.7 days, that is the mean score. So 13 days almost, 13 days is the mean time, but it is 89 people who are doing it before time and 207 people are taking more time than the 13 days. If I see the acceptance rate, so 54% people have accepted and lesser 46% have not. Accept and review rate. So more people, once they accept the review, there are few people who accept but fail to review. And if I choose if I see the best reviewers who have reviewed the articles, so this is a recognition platform, I must tell them that these are the best reviewers who have done their job in time, and this is quantitative measure only. And the maximum articles reviewed have been done by these people. So something about 35-37 articles in the entire period they have done. These are the people who accepted their reviewing, and after acceptance they completed in time. So, and reviewed more than 10 articles. So this is that list. Now coming to altmetrics. So we know we have to check what is the performance of a reviewers from time to time. And if they are not performing well, we stop sending the reviews, the articles to review to them. Now coming to altmetrics, where we have to see how the journal is performing on the social media. And this is how it should be on the Twitter account, on the Facebook, on the Google account. So everywhere it has to be displaying to get more visibility. So it allows to have readers' attention. It allows dissemination of your publication, and it allows, so when people see it, it is a lead to future citation. So automatically, once they see, they will cite it somewhere when needed. Now, talking about Scopus, most of the time help so Scopus provides us is in author search. So whenever author is there and we want to have him as a reviewer as well, so we can have more search for that person. Find a reviewer for a paper article or compare journal performance, gauge the success of the special issue. So if we want to have a special issue, time to time, we come up with special issues. Like this year, we have come up, the one in system now is displaying as a special issue on oral pre-malignant disorders. So OPMD VSI is on the website now. So we have to again gauge the success, whether it is helping the journal grow or it is bringing the scores down. Analyze the potential of a research area. So these VSIs have to be based on an area which is going to give you more citations. So it has to be an area where there more articles are actually needed. Assess the social impact of the paper and keep track of the open access output from the journal. So this is how time to time the editor needs to use the Scopus. Now this is the latest version of Metrics, Plum Analytics, where the usage on the social media is ranked. So there are numbers for each. How many abstract views are there? How many clicks are there? How many collaborators are there? How many downloads are there? How many full text views are there? And how many video plays? So everything, it's on the usage by the readers. How many captures? Again, there has to be a number. How many saves are there? How many subscribers are there? How many have marked it as favorites and bookmarks? How many mentions are there in the blogs, reviews, Wikipedia, everywhere? How many shares, like, comments, tweets? How many citations? So citation is there in the traditional window as well. But here it is, again, the citation is not only the actual text citation, but it's also patent citation. It is also clinical citation. So we need to, till now, we have not been focusing on the Plum Analytics, but now as the social media role is enhancing, we need to focus our more and more presence on the social media as well. And we have to have articles which can be discussed on the social media, published in the journal, but discussed on the social media, so that we have more of clinical citations as well. So this is how the Plum Analytics looks like. So it gives you numbers. This was for a different journal. So I took up for you all to have a look how the numbers are shown through Plum Analytics. Then the top articles by social media in our journal. I asked the Elsevier people to give me something about the PlumX metrics of my journal, and I found that the total citation media was from Dr. O.P. Kharbanda's article, because he actually put it on the social media. So I would request all the authors to make use of your publication and display it on the social media, so that it will benefit you as well as the journal as well. And I went through the journal homepage and found, keep on looking at the most downloaded and the most cited articles. So if this is one article which has been cited 411 times, so this is the most cited and most downloaded article. Clinical citations we talked about. So there has to be clinical pictures of the articles, and they have to go on the social media, so that you can have citation for that. Now the role of the editor is to bring the journal into limelight. Every time the spotlight has to be there, and the editor has to think outside the box. What can be done to bring fresh ideas into this? And of course, nothing can happen without rewarding the reviewers. So it is a teamwork, and if it is done properly from the reviewer, there is a ladder which can take you ahead. You may become someday, based on your performance, you may become handling editor, or you may become someday editorial board member and editor in chief as well. So this is how you get the steering wheel and you take on the lead and become the editor one day. So the 10 top tips for new editors: take time, work closely with the editorial board, keep in close touch with the journal manager. So I keep talking to the Elsevier people how my journal is doing, what you want, how you can help us, how we can help you, what are the marketing strategies and how you can promote the journal. We have to have editorial board meetings from time to time, and of course, myself also need to publish in the journal, and I keep doing that so that I may ask, if I'm publishing in my journal, I can ask my friends also to publish in the journal, and I can invite my friends to send good review articles which can give more citations to the journal and help to improve the scores of the journal. So basically the role of editor is to make the journal more visible, more scoring, and that's how we decide which article should be taken up and should not be taken up. So that's for me today. And any questions, welcome.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think Sachin sir, there was some problem with the network.
Okay.
So he had to log out actually. So if you want, we can take the questions. Devya ma'am, it was a very new information to know that the reviewers are also so quantitatively assessed. So it's actually opening thing for us. So we'll go on to the questions. Ma'am, there are few suggestions as well. Like Mr. Cyrus has written that most journals, somebody had asked that should we apply for reviewer as reviewer to the journals directly. So it's been messaged by Cyrus that yes, most of the journals entertain that directly. Then Dr. Divya Sharma has written that authors who have reviewed many articles in different or in a particular journal should have waived off charges for submitted article. What would you comment as an editor? Ma'am, we lost your voice. Please write it down.
So if there are funds with the journal and they can manage by waiving out some fee, it would be good to have the fee waived off. But if the journal is not getting that entire support, there are chances that the financial part may not be, the credit or the benefit may not be passed on to the reviewers. That depends from journal to journal.
Okay. Dr. Pratik is asking, ma'am, you said we should publish our manuscript on social media. Does it apply to open access journal or only or for all?
Not the complete, the first page, or just to enhance the readability. So not just a glimpse, so some part of it can be discussed on the social forum.
Maybe just the first page that tells the title and
first page, maybe some interesting part of it can be discussed.
so somebody is asking, so can you not be a co-author or publish articles when you are reviewer too?
You cannot be. You have to decline that initially only because there will be a conflict of interest. How can you review an article which is co-authored by you?
Nandini is asking, article is coded, so we don't know authors. Then how conflict of interest will arise?
Article is coded, definitely. but you know if you are a co-author that you are in this article.
Or maybe the ones to whom you are close, you know what is going all around. Conflict of interest will arise only when it is maybe to associated people.
Yes.
Yes, but it's true that you cannot actually, there might be some error still.
Yeah, there may be something in it. You may ask before accepting, if you feel that this is from your same department and it has come to you for review and you would not want, you may discuss with your colleagues, have you submitted like this something? It's a difficult question, I suppose.
Okay. What is the process for indexing?
If Cyrus is here, I would like to ask him if he would want to comment on this. If Cyrus here? Is Cyrus here?
I think he's
Yes.
gone.
Yes. Gone? No, he is here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can't. He was having trouble
Okay.
talking.
Okay. Yeah. Would you like to comment on this, Tony?
Oh, sorry. What was?
Type an answer. So Cyrus is saying he would want to type the answer. Yeah.
He's typing an answer at the
Okay.
moment.
Yeah. Ankita,
Yes, ma'am.
can you repeat the question for both of them?
What's the question?
Just a second, ma'am. No, I get so many messages.
How to realize the conflict of interest when the article is coded and you don't know who the author is. That's what the question was?
Yes, ma'am.
If the article is coded, that happens most of the time that the reviewers don't know who the author is. How will you claim your conflict of interest in that scenario? What would be your suggestion, Mr. Marcus?
Well, if it's coded, why does it need to be coded? As a good editor, you are totally impartial.
Yeah.
So why does it need to be coded to you?
Not to the editor, not to the editor. The first page is the title page, which is usually not sent to the reviewer. Only the manuscript part goes to the reviewer.
Okay, so sorry, so you're saying the title page is
not with the reviewer. It's only the manuscript which is with the reviewer. Yeah. So how will the reviewer get to know if there is a conflict of interest because the person is from the same department?
They're always little, and I know that Cyrus agrees, and he's just said so. There are little things, they're little pointers. So you might redact the institution from which it comes, but they're little pointers, like, for example, when you look at the bibliography, the references on you've got the title that you're reviewing, and then you look at some of the references that are used over and over again, and you think, well, actually, this chap is probably extending his research a little bit. Sometimes you wonder whether they are merely modifying their papers very slightly so that they get publications in multiple journals. And I'm sorry to say that I'm sure it does happen occasionally, but you get a pretty good idea of the way people write. I mean, some of the papers I get to review from India are written clearly without my knowledge, but in what is called English, so the way it's written, or from Iran or from Nigeria. So you can tell there are always little giveaway clues. But why do you need to be a detective? Why not just review on the basis of whether the work is good, worthwhile, or not?
Yeah. Thank you. Any other question, Ankita?
Yes, ma'am. If you find an article to be good, an editor accepts despite rejection. Can an editor accept despite rejection by 2 reviewers? And how many reviewer opinions do you take on? And
if it is from 2 reviewers, they have written it as a major rejection or major revision, and I read the reviews and I find it cannot be improved further, I would like to reject it.
No, but if you feel it is good, and reviewers' comments are not.
I feel it is good if the reviewers' comments are not in alignment with my comments. I sent for a third reviewer or a fourth reviewer to go through and see what their comments are.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is, what is the process for indexing the journals in PubMed, Scopus, and Web of Science?
Those are the jobs of the publisher, not the editor.
Someone is asking, any idea how to contact Elsevier?
How to contact Elsevier? Elsevier people will be there tomorrow.
Okay. How to publish a book in Elsevier? What are the guidelines?
Again, you can talk to them tomorrow.
Okay. I think I don't see any other questions. There are no more questions.
Okay. Okay. Sunil Saha is here. Sunil, would you like to come up?
No, I'm in clinic, so I can't do so. Just like
Okay. Good to have you.
I have listened most of the parts, and put in that way because it's very interesting, and I think I have joined few days, so I would say it's very interesting. And thank you, Divya, for organizing.
Okay.
I think
Dr. Shobha Tandon is here. Can we have you, ma'am?
yes, ma'am is there.
Ma'am, can we have your inputs?
I have already given on my message.
Your voice is very faint.
Something is wrong with work. I
Hear you.
Ma'am, there is one question. If I put up, I have missed it.
Yeah.
In recent times, it has become a trend for editors to publish in the same journal. Is it acceptable?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you say, publish it in the same. It happens because once your article is accepted in some journal, you have to get that connect and you try to publish in the same journal. That happens even with me. So I think it's not an issue. It should not be an issue to publish, but you have to have a diversity. If you are having your CV, it should not be that all the articles are submitted in the same or published in the same journal. It's good to have articles in different journals so that you get a good readability everywhere.
I think, ma'am, we don't have any more questions.
Okay.
We had already shared our poll for today in the group. We'll request everyone to please fill that.
Okay.
And we'll be sharing the feedback also. Dr. Ritza. We put it in the group.
Yeah, I will be putting the feedback link.
Okay. So tomorrow is the panel discussions. So all of you can have your questions ready to fire onto the panel tomorrow, and we can have a good discussion with the good team of panelists tomorrow. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Good
Cyrus.
evening.
It would have been better if we could have seen you, Cyrus, but at least you could make up and be here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye.